Hi there, and welcome to the Retail Drop podcast brought to you by Go Instore and Charles Retail. In each episode, we'll be talking to industry experts who share their insights on everything ranging customer experience, omnichannel retail, and digital trends in our ever-changing retail landscape. Hi, it's Andre Hordegoda here from Go Instore, and I'd like to welcome you to the first ever episode of the Retail Drop. What a way to start. Today I've got with us, I dare say, a guru as far as customer experience is concerned. 30 years of experience, brands ranging Harrods, Ted Baker, so many to name.
Burberry,
brands. Wow, there you go. And of course, Practicology, which you successfully started, ran, and recently sold.
I did, yes.
Excellent.
Or we did, which was a very pleasing moment. In September 28th last year.
Yeah. So if you're interested in customer experience, you're the go-to guy.
Hopefully.
How did it get started off? How did it all start?
So I started my career, 37 years ago, actually, in my father's retail optical practices in Glasgow.
Okay.
So I actually cut my teeth in a marketing role and on the shop floor of his opticians' practices when optics was being deregulated. You'll be too young to remember this, but actually there was a time in the UK where opticians couldn't do any marketing or anything. It was very heavily regulated as an industry, and so this was a time where Vision Express and Specsavers and Optical Express and all those brands that we know now came into being. But it was a great time, and I really enjoyed it. And it's always a good opportunity to cut your teeth in a family business, and
absolutely.
You probably get a bit more leeway, right? You get to make a few mistakes,
but also some brutal truths when you get it wrong, right?
Very much so. My dad didn't give me an easy time, that's for sure. But I really enjoyed it.
That's interesting. So it was regulated heavily, and now it's become less. Probably the opposite to a lot of other, like the tobacco industry. So that was a bit more of a challenge. How do you get the message out when it's so regulated? I guess.
You couldn't really, because you were very limited in what you could do, and ultimately it was the deregulation that allowed opticians to start to advertise, to start to target consumers in a way that they do today. But you couldn't do that back in the early 1980s. So it was really just at that point where things opened up, and that was an opportunity for me to cut my teeth in a marketing role.
So when it was all fresh. So on that note, thinking over the last 10, 15 years, what do you think the biggest challenges are in terms of the changing environment for businesses?
I think the thing that's fundamentally changed in the last 15 or 20 years, if you like, if you go back to the mid-1990s, the first transactional website was in 1994, which was allegedly a certain pizza brand. I think it might be Pizza Hut. It was either Pizza Hut or it was a Sting CD, depends who you believe. Are they threatening to deliver the first drone pizza as well, I think? I'm sure somebody's going to do that in the very near future. But the thing is, if you go back to that point in time, as consumers, we had limited choice. Because we had the high street, we maybe had a shopping centre. Some brands had catalogues. Fundamentally, we had no e-commerce, we had no internet. So we were quite limited in our choice. And I think at that moment in time, up until that moment in time, retailers held the control and the balance of power. The web changed everything. It democratized the whole experience for consumers, and it put the power in the hands of the customer. And that's really the biggest thing that's changed. And I still don't think today, fast forward to 20 odd years down the line to 2019, I genuinely believe there's a lot of retailers, unfortunately, and other consumer businesses who still haven't really grasped what that means for their business and why being completely customer-centric and putting the customer at the heart of all you do can be the only recipe for success in the future.
Absolutely. I think just to mention this book, which I picked up on Friday. I've just happened to have it's a shameless plug here. It's awesome. I had a household full of family, so I hadn't spoken to in a long time. I managed to get halfway through it. So apologies I didn't finish it, but I'm going to keep going.
Shortlisted for the Business Book of the Year award.
Awesome.
Very rudely, they gave it to someone else. What can I say?
Dear, oh dear. They don't know anything. Right, so some great quotes in here, but you're talking about the advent of the web and how that's changed things. It's given power to the consumer. And I think one of the great phrases that you say in here somewhere is that no matter what business you're in, you should really think of yourselves as a customer service company, but you happen to sell stuff as well, which I think is great. So obviously the web changed everything, but do you see, let's say, looking at just the last 5 years, do you see that the impact is I mean, is it more so, less so? What's the difference now?
Crikey, that's a good question. I mean, I think that, e-commerce is now quite mature in the UK, for the majority of certainly the large tier one retailers, the mid-sized retailers, and a lot of SMEs as well. I think that but I still think there's an awful lot of gaps. I don't see retailers really joining the experience up and pulling all the channels together in a way that is really helpful or the most helpful for consumers.
Sure.
We use a lot of parlance in the industry, don't we? We talk about things like omnichannel and digital transformation.
Yeah.
Because we like to have a wrapper.
A phrase I hear you like, digital transformation.
You may have read that. I'm not a massive fan of that. It's not because I don't like the phrase. It's just that I feel that we use these terminologies, and if I went across 100 different businesses and asked them what does digital transformation mean, or what does omnichannel mean, I know I'm going to get different answers from every single person that I ask. And therefore, my challenge back is, well, in that case, how sensible is that as a framework to ensure that everybody's moving in the right direction within the organisation? Whereas if you said, we're going to do everything we can to be a truly customer-centric organisation, then, and to paraphrase my own phrase about being a customer service business that happens to sell stuff, if you got everyone in the organisation thinking like that, then you and I both know that the level of service would go up a notch or two, and that would mean that customers ultimately would have a much better experience. And so really where I'm going with that is, yes, what we're trying to do ultimately is to sell products and services, but ultimately the better experience that we can deliver and the more service orientated we can be in the execution of that, the more effective we're going to be in the results. People will buy more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all for. Yeah. And you're better engaged with the brand if you're having that experience that doesn't worry about what channel it is. It's just a.
I mean, just very quickly. I mean, the best retailers I know. I mean, if you go back to maybe 10 years ago when somebody like Andy Bond was running Asda, or you had Sir Terry Leahy running Tesco. Those old school retailers, they walked the floor, and they got so much insight from not only customers but also from their colleagues. They don't do that anymore. There are very few retailers walk the floor. I talk to e-commerce teams all the time, and I say, "When was the last time you walked the floor?" And they look at me as if I've just arrived from Mars, because they say, "Well, my world's here, on the screen. My customers are online." And I say, they're not. Your customers are multi-channel customers. In fact, many of them are in the store right now. And you could learn so much by looking at them, by talking to them, by understanding, what they're engaging with in terms of content, products, what they're buying, what they like, what they don't like.
So do you think in a world where we're seeing job titles like omnichannel, multi-channel director, even digital transformation, do you think we should get rid of the word digital, and because, retail is retail and business is business? Or do you see that we're still in the process of getting rid of these silos between channels? You're seeing that?
Another good question. We're definitely still working largely in a siloed world. Most businesses still have a separate e-commerce / digital team, which is very separate to the rest of the business. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that if that's what's going on, then it means the chances are the experiences across all the different touch points of the business are probably not as joined up as the customer is going to be looking for. We talk about having a single view of the customer and their data, a single view of stock. There's a lot of things that basic things that we have to, put in place to deliver the right experience. So I wouldn't say get rid of the word digital, but to my mind, technology is an enabler. It's not the starting point. I always start with the customer and work out what is it our customers actually want. I think that we very often in this industry, and I've done it myself many times when I was on the client side, because I wanted to be seen to be an early adopter. I mean, I implemented live chat at Ted Baker way back in 2007. And I just think that there's a little bit too much of we kind of follow the market rather than actually working out what our customers want.
What do they want?
And if we talk to our most important groups of customers and actually got some insight from them in terms of the things that they find frustrating, we probably learn a lot more than just blindly following the market.
Okay, so you're touching on some amazing points there, and I'm fizzing away. There's so many things that I want to talk to you about, but something that don't sigh, but death of the high street. Everyone's been saying it. Sure. I don't think it's true. I mean, what do you think is the role of the retail store in 2019 and beyond? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's been so much noise about that. There really has. Don't we just love talking things down in this country?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a glass half full man and a glass half empty, so I find it very frustrating. But basically, because I don't believe it. You know, the high street's not dying. It's evolving, and it has to evolve.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the challenges is that when we talk about the high street, you know, the reality is there's probably about, I've not worked this out, but there's probably 10 or 12 different formats of high street in the UK.
Yeah.
Because you've got, you know, coastal towns.
Okay.
You've got Richmond or Muswell Hill in London, which are thriving high streets.
Yeah. But villagey almost.
Villagey almost, exactly. Almost like their own little kind of ecosystem or microcosm within, you know, the great metropolis of London. You've got, you probably have got high streets in different locations up and down the country where there's probably more than half of the stores are closed. You know, so I think we have to tackle this more holistically. We have to think about it in a more segmented sort of process in terms of thinking about how do we tackle the different challenges that different types of high street face.
Sure.
But I think the other thing is we haven't actually worked out how to bring. We need to bring all the different entities together that will define or play a contribution in terms of making sure we have successful high streets in the future. And that means landlords who need to be more flexible with leases. So we have pop-ups, short-term leases. I think we're going to see a lot of independence coming into the empty spaces in the high street. I envisage a time where we have a lot of artisanal independent retailers filling those spaces that we have at the moment. But you also need, you know, town planners to make sure that the environments are nicer environments.
Absolutely.
We need local councils to say, well, you know what, if we're going to charge a lot of money for parking, the chances are consumers are going to buy online and they're not going to come.
Absolutely.
And then we need the government to look at business rates and find a more equitable solution, you know, that works across all the different channels. And of course, we need retailers to deliver experiential retail experiences.
Experiential retail,
Because if it's not a good experience, why would you go in there in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's lots of things we need to do, but you know, the reality is here we are today in 2019, and as of today, approximately 19% of all retail sales are online. 81% are on a physical store.
Still in store, Now,
I made a prediction recently that we get to 40% of all sales being in e-commerce. And I know some people have poo-pooed that. I've said 40% by 2030.
Okay.
But if you think about it, e-commerce sales grew as a percentage of total retail, according to the Office of National Statistics, by 1% last year. So if they continue to grow at 1% a year for the next decade, they'll only get to 30%. Right? So there's a long way to go. And the reality is most consumers are still going to want to buy in a brick and mortar environment in the foreseeable future.
But so on that though, the physical store, even if I'm making the transaction in the e-commerce realm, I still might use the store as a physical touch point, or remotely even. Anyway, so I mean that really picks on the point that you mentioned and the phrase that I really like, which is retail theatre. I guess Apple probably the guys that kicked that off, and we've seen great examples coming out of all sorts of brands. But is there an example where people have gone too far
with retail theatre? That's a really good question. I can't think of an example where someone's gone too far necessarily. I think that I've experienced lots of retailers who have implemented, for example, digital mirrors. Right? That haven't actually really improved the experience for customers or made it easier for them to buy stuff. So I think that from an experiential point of view, I think brand owners need to be thinking about how do we immerse customers more in the brand and provide them with content and an experience that actually enriches buying a product. And then how do we use technology to make it easier for people to make decisions? So how do we take away the friction? You know, whether that's at the till point with at the till point with e-receipts, for example, so that customers don't have to queue up or abandon their basket, but they can get out the store quicker, whatever it happens to be.
So there's a really interesting chapter in your book about marketplaces and how retailers specifically shouldn't necessarily be scared of them. On that topic, what are your thoughts to the likes of Facebook and Instagram now creating these shopping environments and trying to encourage brands through them. Well, what's your feeling on that?
Well, if I were a retailer today or a brand owner, I'd ultimately want my products to be where my customers are.
Makes sense,
if that means that my customers are also on Amazon and my customers are on Facebook and they're on Instagram, and these provide, in some cases, in Amazon's case, it provides more, ideal. In Amazon's case, it provides better convenience because I can order with one click. I can also buy lots of products. I might have Amazon Prime delivery, for example. In the case of Facebook and Instagram, if I'm engaging there in a social context and they're targeting me at a time where maybe I'm in a more relaxed state of mind, and also when I'm engaging with friends of mine from a content perspective, it's probably not a bad idea to catch me at that moment. Sure. I may have a greater inclination to want to buy. So I think you've got to be where your customers are. That's the bottom line. But
absolutely.
I do think that sometimes brands get a little bit too over concerned about cannibalization, for example. Sure. And in reality, the chances are that whether you're on Facebook and targeting lookalike customers to the ones that already buy from you, or whether you're on Amazon, for that matter, I think you largely extend the reach of your brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it gives you the opportunity to reach more customers. So why wouldn't you want to be there?
No, it makes complete sense. You need to go where your customers are. But do you see that we're headed towards a sort of WeChat model where that's Facebook's mission, right? That they want everyone to be inside their realm all the time. Do you think it will ever get that far? Or
I think WeChat is I've seen a fantastic video of how customers literally spend their whole day on WeChat, both in the online and offline world. Right. Because WeChat is a combination of, it's an amalgamation or combination of pretty much, or an ecosystem actually, of all the social media platforms we have here, because it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Tinder, it's kind of everything kind of wrapped into one. And I've often thought about, would somebody try and do that in the West? I haven't seen anyone do it. I can't help thinking it feels like an opportunity for someone to do that.
Okay, with a lot of cash.
Yeah, with a lot of cash. But whether or not we as consumers, sadly that's way beyond my means, whether or not consumers would actually want to spend, the way they do in China and Asia, whether they'd want to spend all their time and energy in just one environment. Sure. I'm not so sure. Because I think as consumers in the West, we like to pick and choose, which is arguably why a lot of consumers do dip in and out of those different, from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram to Pinterest. Sure. So not sure.
Well, I'm a late bloomer when it comes to Instagram, and I'm in my mid-40s, but on Facebook all the time. But apparently, no one's on Facebook anymore. So
not many, I have to say. I've noticed a change as well as it happens. Well, I'm in my early 50s, and I've noticed a lot of people that used to engage with me there don't seem to be spending their time there anymore. You know, and certainly my daughters who are 18 and 23, not interested in Facebook.
Yes, Instagram,
and Snapchat. I mean, as a family, we've been Snapchatting as a family for about 10 years now. Well, feels like 10 years anyway. We Snapchat our food and all of our different experiences to each other, as we go throughout the course of the day. So it's kind of our own little social channel between all of us, and WhatsApp as well, actually, for that matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, so my 9-year-old daughter's constantly WhatsApping me. She's on half term. I'm surprised my phone's not going off right now. Poo emojis. I don't know what that's about, but she's obsessed with them. So look, I mean, in a world that's changing so fast, and I guess the only thing that is consistent is the rate of change at the moment. What are your predictions for the future in terms of technologies that will impact customer experience, customer service, the way we
if I could talk about consumer behaviour and technology a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I think that, I have a feeling that in the next 5 years, basically, maybe even the next 2 or 3 years, I think there's going to be a bit of a backlash from consumers when it comes to buying online. Okay. And the reason why I think that's going to happen is that because we become there's so much momentum behind the environment, climate change, social responsibility. And I really do think that consumers are going to vote with their feet. And rather than buying everything online, I think you're going to see a move towards actually buying back in the high street. Okay. And the reason for that is that
when you say buying, you mean transacting?
Transacting, because I think they're going to have an issue with getting a lot of home deliveries, basically. Okay. I think the thing that will change that is when the delivery companies move to electric vehicles. Okay. Again, I think that'll swing things back, but I think until that happens, I genuinely believe that consumers as we become more aware of our own carbon footprint, I think that's going to have an impact. I think some of the big changes in technology, and certainly in the next decade, voice. So there's been a lot of noise about voice. everyone says, we live in a voice-led world. We don't, right? Because how many consumers do you see walking down the street even asking Siri for directions, right? Or talking into their phone. So I think although we've got smart speakers in our homes and we are increasingly interacting with them, we're not really transacting with them yet. It's a very low percentage of transactions. I mean, literally I think it's less than 1%. So there's an increasing volume of consumers using it, but not transacting yet. But I think we will see a fundamental shift in behaviour where we will embrace that, and we'll get in, in 5-10 years' time, we'll be getting into our cars, we'll be telling our cars where we want to go, we'll be telling them what music we want on, we'll be telling them what temperature we want the air conditioning at. We'll be voice activating the position of our seat. We'll be doing everything by voice control. So I definitely see that coming. And the other thing I think will definitely come into its own is augmented reality. Again, we've been talking about augmented reality now, as far as I can remember, for probably 5 or 6 years in a fairly significant way. Nobody's, very small percentages of consumers are engaging with it at the moment because the technology is not really there yet, where it becomes a kind of usable, everyday, integrated part of our life. The one thing that will change that is glasses.
I completely agree with you. Sorry. I mean, it's a similar theory is that you're still asking people to take the phone out, and if the value's not more than enough to justify them doing it, why are they going to do it?
Exactly. If it's not convenient, if it doesn't become just an integrated part of what you do. So, there's Facebook and Cisco and a whole bunch of massive technology businesses are investing in the development of glasses because they want to be first to market with that. And I think that whilst Google were early to that, I really do believe that that's going to be the next big evolution, and I think we'll be walking into stores and we'll have all sorts of rich content overlaid into our glasses, which will improve the experience. Give us more information on products, etc.
We're all over glasses, so I mean we've got our finger on the pulse, and whenever there's a new version out or a new SDK, we've got it and we're experimenting. But I think you're right. I think with any sort of wearable tech or technology in general, unless it fits the value of using it, it overcomes the inconvenience of having it. Or as someone who wears glasses, they look just like normal glasses and they're convenient. They won't really
exactly.
Changing the topics very slightly, but going back to something you were saying earlier, you mentioned that you introduced text chat to Ted Baker.
It was actually live chat.
Oh, live chat.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
That's all right.
Right. Yeah. So
no problem.
Yeah. So with live chat, the way I think about it, and I guess there's a parallel with what we do because we're putting human being into the digital channel, which we think it needs. I mean that's where live chat started off. But you're seeing now, I think it's about 80% of interactions are actually run by bots. What are your feelings towards that in terms of customer experience?
I'm not convinced that bots can deliver the sort of nuanced experience that customers are always looking for. I think there is definitely an economies of scale using bots in a live chat environment.
Sure.
I mean, I've read people recently saying in 10 years' time, all the staff or all the service in a retail store will be delivered by robots. What's a lot of rubbish?
Okay.
There's no way that's going to happen. I mean, I do see robots picking up the heavy lifting and doing a lot of the tasks, the manual sort of
stuff.
Stock replenishment, the sort of stuff that actually doesn't, helps the retailer, ultimately sell more products, but doesn't necessarily add value there and then to the customer. I think you still need human beings and human intervention for that. So I think the way you leverage your technology in the physical environment, where you then bring to life the workforce and you use the workforce in the store environment to provide product knowledge and better advice to customers who are thinking about buying something online. I think that's fantastic, because that's leveraging the people with the knowledge. We don't do nearly enough of that, within retail. I often say to retail boards, again, when was the last time you talked to your colleagues in the store? Because they've got so much insight.
Absolutely.
They're at the coalface. They'll tell you what's working well and what isn't working well. And I think to engage them in a proactive way like that with customers, but leveraging technology in a way to enable them to do that, to have that real-time, FaceTime interaction, if you like.
Sure.
I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Speak to the people. We're true believers in the fact that people buy from people. We love human interactions.
Sure.
There is an irony in the sense that we started off, live chat started off like that, but now it's become bot driven.
Yeah.
Collect the data. We might end up being the engine that powers the Terminator 2 machine that's delivering customer service at your local Boots. So, I guess to wrap things up, and we will start something. This is our first podcast.
Sure.
We're toying with the idea. We're going to call it the double drop question.
Right. Okay. Here we go.
The double drop question.
Sounds ominous.
If you could give some advice, I know hindsight's 20/20. If you could give it advice, if you could rewind the clocks and say, let's go back 3 years and give advice to any of the major brands, heritage brands that we've sorely seen demise on the UK high street.
What would I tell them?
The likes of Toys R Us, Maplin, you name it. What would you? Anyone that Mike Ashley may have been sniffing around with in the last 5 years. What would you have said?
Well, I would have said you need to adapt quicker, and that means that you need to close the store. You need to close more stores, and you need to do that faster. And the reason for that is not that the high street's dying, but the reality is, if you're Debenhams or your Toys R Us, and you've got 25 or 30% of your sales online, right? Even although you have got some multi-channel customers, the chances are you've got too many stores. If you haven't closed any yet, and all of a sudden you've got a third of your sales online. Again, you don't need to be a mathematician, to work out you've probably got too many stores. And sadly, I just think that too many of those businesses were too slow to make that change.
Sure.
Now, sometimes it's easier said than done, right? And that's why many of them end up going through CVAs because they haven't got the flexibility to do it otherwise with the landlords.
Sure.
So landlords also have to become more understanding and more realistic, I think, with regards to how much they charge, for leases and their flexibility around enabling retailers to adapt their operating model. To reflect where customers are shopping now and what that business looks like. So that would have been my number one bit of advice. And the other thing would be, you have to put the customer at the heart of all you do.
Absolutely.
And you've talked about it for probably 20 years. You haven't really done anything about it. And going down an omni-channel path or digital transformation or whatever you want to call it is not the answer. The answer is starting with customers and working out what sort of experience those most important segments of customers are looking for, and then engineering everything you do around that. So having the right people, the right structure, the right skills, the right processes, the right experience in store, the right number of stores, the right last mile experience, the right insight, taking insight and turning it into actionable insight. Again, we talk about big data. What does big data mean? I have no idea, but I do know what actionable insight is.
Sure.
Where I've looked into the data and I've worked out what's not working as well as it might do, and I've gone after that. So I think there's a lot of things that we could have done and should have done quicker. And sadly, the businesses that haven't done that, many of them have gone to the wall, and others will follow. Because at the end of the day, the thing that disruptors do is disruptors have worked out how to leverage technology to deliver the experiences that the established multi-channel businesses have really struggled with. The best example, if you don't mind very quickly,
Sure.
and it's not within retail, but Uber's a great example, because if you think about it from a consumer perspective, ordering a taxi 4 or 5 years ago, you go online, you probably find a number, you call them up, you tell them you need it in 15 minutes, they tell you to be there in 15 minutes. You'd always be a bit cynical about whether it would turn up in 15 minutes or not. You might be going for an interview, you might have an important business meeting, a date, whatever it is. So you're not in control as a consumer, and you're getting a bit anxious. Taxi turns up, usually a few minutes late. When you get in the cab, you don't know whether they're going the quickest route. You don't know whether they're overcharging you. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get there. Along came Uber, changed all of that, knocked it on its head. Now you go on the Uber app, it tells you exactly when the driver's going to arrive, it tells you exactly how much the trip's going to cost, it tells you exactly how long it's going to take you to get there, and it shows you the route. And what it does is it puts you in complete control, and that is what the disruptors have done. And that is what established retailers ultimately, legacy aside, and that's always a thing that they have to overcome, but they have to overcome it, and they have to find a way of doing that quicker. They have to become more agile. Otherwise, they won't be there in a few years.
Otherwise, they won't be there. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the Retail Drop by Go Instore. We always read comments left, so feel free to join the debate. Visit our website, goinstore.com, for more. Until next time, happy retailing.